The Catalunya race may have seemed like just another bad day for Lewis Hamilton. However, behind the radio and the Ferrari team's strategy, a much darker and more complex story lurked. A single sentence from Charles Leclerc on lap 9 set off a storm that is now threatening the internal harmony of Formula One's most legendary team. "I sacrificed my position." This seemingly simple sentence was more than just a strategy report. It was a political ultimatum. What did Leclerc mean by that statement at the Catalunya Grand Prix? Let's discuss it. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The radio conversation never appeared on TV. No audio was leaked to the public, and no angry expressions were caught on camera. But its impact was immediate, like a bolt of lightning. Within seconds of the internal communication, Riccardo Adami, Lewis Hamilton's race engineer, relayed a short but firm command from the pit wall. "We are swapping the cars." There was no room for discussion. No data analysis or technical reasons were given to the public. Just one absolute, non-negotiable instruction. Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, once again had to accept the difficult decision to pull over and let another driver pass. Not because his car was slower. Not because he made a mistake. It was because the power dynamics within Ferrari had changed. In the midst of a tight race, he was no longer a priority. What made this situation even more painful was the fact that Hamilton had actually performed better than Leclerc in qualifying, a rare achievement in a season that often favored the Monegasque driver. But now, only one word was enough to shake the structure of logic and the performance hierarchy: sacrifice. When Leclerc spoke, Ferrari immediately listened and acted. But what about when Hamilton voiced his opinion? The team hesitated, as if reluctant to hear from the legend. That was the reality he now had to face. He was respected but no longer prioritized. What happened in Barcelona was about more than just pit stop strategy and tire calculations. It ran deeper. It was a fragment of an internal Cold War that was slowly cracking Ferrari's foundations. On the surface, the team appeared solid, harmonious, and united. But behind the paddock smiles and diplomatic statements, the reality was very different. Ferrari is divided from within. Charles Leclerc is on one side. He is a driver raised by the Ferrari system, a symbol of long-term investment, and a hope for the future design from the start. He is the progenitor of Maranello, having grown up with the team's philosophy and values. Lewis Hamilton is on the other side. He is a living legend of Formula One and comes from the great Mercedes dynasty. Despite his achievements and charisma, some people within the team still see him as an outsider who has not fully integrated into Ferrari's DNA. When Leclerc calmly said that he sacrificed qualifying for the sake of the race, it wasn't an act of humility. It was a political statement. It was a strong message addressed directly to the management and the entire team. "I gave up Saturday for the team's victory on Sunday. Don't let Hamilton steal it." It was an emotional call full of historical loyalty. Ferrari immediately submitted, as if struck by guilt. There was no in-depth evaluation of the data. There was no objective analysis of race rhythm or optimal strategy. Only the collective fear of betraying their symbol of loyalty remained. Ferrari chose heart over reason. That was the moment when one team realized that two worlds were no longer fully aligned. Throughout the race, Lewis Hamilton complained about his car's performance. "Unbelievable, guys. There's something wrong with this car. It's the worst it's ever been," he bellowed over the team radio. But it wasn't just technical frustration. It was the heartfelt cry of a 7-time world champion, a man who was once the center of the Formula One universe, who now felt marginalized from the larger story being written without him. At Mercedes, Hamilton's every word was a command to be obeyed and answered with a precise strategy. Now, at Ferrari, his voice seemed to echo unanswered, drowned out by the cold silence of a pit wall more concerned with plotting Leclerc's path to victory. As the team celebrated Leclerc on the podium and cheered for their successful strategy, Hamilton stood as a shadow of his former self, a presence that was beginning to feel alien amidst the euphoria that was no longer his. In fact, he has saved the race many times. With his sharp instincts and extensive experience, Hamilton continues to give his all on the track. But now, even his greatest efforts feel insufficient. When the camera focuses on his face after the race, he can only softly say, "It's probably just me." It sounds like a form of humility but is actually a silent admission of loss. It's a surrender from a legend who is no longer part of the main narrative. What is more painful for Hamilton is not only his defeat on the track, but also the bitter reality that this is not the first incident of its kind this season. At the Chinese Grand Prix some time ago, a similar scenario played out. At that time, Charles Leclerc quickly complained about conditions and situations detrimental to him, and Ferrari immediately responded to his complaints. However, when Hamilton voiced his concerns or asked for support, he was met with cold silence. Behind the scenes, among the engineers busy monitoring data and the mechanics struggling in the pits, and even among the highest levels of Ferrari management, a shift in priorities is clearly visible and hard to deny. Ferrari, once known as a fair team with two equally supported leaders, has now turned into a kingdom with one adored prince. Leclerc is well aware of this change. With his usual intelligence and composure, he navigates it like a chess player who excels at reading opponents and situations. Every comment he makes, including those about the sacrifices that must be made for the team, is more than just a request or complaint. It is a carefully planned strategic move. With all the love and great hopes placed in Leclerc as the future of the team, Ferrari follows this direction without hesitation, as if merging all their energy and focus for the young prince. At Mercedes, Hamilton is at the center of it all. He is not just a driver, he is the axis around which the entire team revolves. All strategies, decisions, and development directions are made with him at the forefront. However, things changed drastically when he moved to Ferrari. There, he was no longer the center of attention. He was like a small satellite orbiting a sun named Charles Leclerc, a figure who was undoubtedly the center of attention and the team's top priority. Despite wearing Hamilton's car number, the SF25 felt like a vehicle whose soul and spirit belonged to Leclerc, not Hamilton. More worrisome, though, was the team's attitude toward his complaints. When he raised the issue of the car's chaotic setup and lost balance, rather than taking his concerns seriously, Ferrari seemed reluctant to investigate further. "I'm sure they won't," Hamilton said, sounding deeply bitter and disappointed. This was not just a technical issue, but a sign of something much bigger. We were witnessing not only the decline of a world champion's performance, but also the gradual erosion of his legacy. Not because of his age or speed, but because of the team's narrative and dynamics that systematically shifted him out of the spotlight. From the main axis to the increasingly dim shadows, Hamilton's journey now tells a story full of tension and uncertainty. It's a new and challenging chapter for the legend, perhaps more difficult than anything he has ever faced on the racetrack. Lewis Hamilton's experience at Ferrari is not just a series of technical failures or poor strategic decisions. Rather, it is a subtle yet systematic form of psychological isolation, slowly but surely uprooting any sense of belonging he once had. Every lap Hamilton completes around the Barcelona circuit brings him closer to facing the harsh reality that he is no longer the protagonist of the great story he once helped create with hope and courage. Charles Leclerc is fighting to beat Hamilton on the track. He is rewriting Ferrari's future without Hamilton, a future without the shadow of the past looming over the Maranello skyline. Leclerc wants to be the center of the red universe, and he is slowly making it happen. Is the sacrifice Leclerc's or Hamilton's? Write your thoughts below.